Alright, so here we are, episode 2 of the Ultimate Hunters podcast. I'm Kirk Washington.
I'm Levi right now.
And we're going to get into some topics today over success versus failure. What, I guess, failures we've gone through, what success we've gone through, what have we learned from it, and how do you think other people have, learned from it? Do you think the success has driven their standards higher? Do you think the failures have made them step away from hunting or the outdoor, in general altogether?
Yeah.
So, I guess we can get into, you got a story for us?
A success story or a failure story?
Whichever one comes to mind quicker. And I have a feeling it's a failure story quicker. Because those ones you do not forget.
No, you sure don't. The one that comes to mind immediately is, actually it happened this past archery bow season.
Yeah.
It was right at the beginning of November, so and the weather
was going on.
Yeah, it had just kicked off. Weather was perfect, and it was my first all-day sit.
Yeah, whitetail hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is the day. And I was on a scrape line, and it had not been. It was cleaned out the day before, and then it had not been cleaned out since then. When I got in there at day, I was in the tree 30 minutes before daylight, and I sat there for 12 hours.
Yeah. So typically whitetail are going, especially during that time, whitetail deer are going and hitting these scrape lines, checking them consistently.
Yes.
So that's
why I was hunting there.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good place, and I knew there was a good buck that I wanted to harvest in there. And so I sat up 15 yards from this scrape just because that was the best tree I could find. And I got up in there, had a great set. I mean, it was set up perfect. Everything was awesome, and I went all morning, and I saw some does come through, pee in the scrape, do their thing, It was cool. It was an awesome morning. And like I said, it was the first, real cold. It was, 28 degrees that morning. It was, you just picture perfect morning,
Yes.
Light wind, constant light wind.
Yeah.
So, and it was going the right direction and everything. I was like, this is the day. I'm gonna do it. And so I spent all morning, and then I sat there, and then it was around 10 o'clock or so. I was like, man, I'm kind of snacky. So I got down my bag. I was get my snacks out.
What'd you bring,
I had a granola bar, just a one of those Hidden Valley, the sweet and salty peanut granola bars.
Good.
Had a couple of those. I was getting those out, drinking. I had my Nalgene in my bottle, and I was drinking some water, and I was just hanging out. I hadn't seen any deer in a couple of hours, so I was like, okay, I got a minute here. And then I was eating my granola bar, and I heard something behind me, and I turned around, and it wasn't the buck I was after, but it was a good, solid buck.
Yeah.
It was just, he wasn't running, but he was on a mission. He came down behind me and just right where I wanted him to be. Cause he was behind me, but not really to the side, perfect for saddle.
Yeah.
He was right where he needed to be. And by the time I fumbled around and got my camera around there and everything, he was gone.
Yeah.
And, so that was failure number 1 for the day.
Okay.
Because I wasn't paying attention. So then I sat there the rest of the day, and deer continued to filter through. Nothing, no bucks at all. I think there was a little spike, mostly does and stuff. And then
Did you sit there all day?
all day.
Yeah. Dedication.
And then right at dark, I'm talking close to the legal light.
Yeah.
Here comes the buck that I wanted to shoot, is coming from behind me, directly behind me, which is not what I expected. And it was still legal light. I had 10 minutes left, I think. And so I get the camera around there, I'm filming him, and I'm like, okay, it's going to come together. Well, it was the first deer I'd shot at all season, and I was nervous, shaking.
Mm-hmm.
I drew back on him, and instead of waiting, if I would have waited a few more minutes, he would have been perfectly broadside to me. Yeah. But instead, I took a risky shot. I turned completely around in my saddle and was taking, and terrible shot. I hit him.
Yeah.
But it was in the, it hit him basically in his butt.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
it made me so sick, and I thought, okay, well maybe I got the femoral artery.
Yeah, I've had buddies that has had that exact same thing happen.
Yeah.
And I'll shoot a shot, you know, and I'm like, oh, I hit him good.
Yeah.
And like never find them.
No.
And
I tracked him.
Hoping that you hit that.
Yep. And it hit him, and he took off running and ran directly underneath me. And I was like, okay. So I just sat there for a minute, collected myself because I knew it was a bad shot. Like, cause I had my halo knock on, so I could see where it hit him.
That's rough.
And I was like,
we've all been there.
Yeah. And I was like, oh man. So then I sat there, collected myself. I was like, okay, let's just tear everything down. It's dark. Let's tear down. And then I had blood. As soon as I got to the base of my tree, right where he ran, there was decent blood. And I was like, maybe this is a good sign.
Yeah.
So I went back to my cabin. I got my dad. We came back out there. We tracked him. He went up a big hill and then started going back down. And when he started going back down, because he didn't make it all the way to the top before he started going back down, I was like, he's hurt. That's good. Like, you know, because if they're going up, then they're probably going to be okay.
Yeah.
But normally if he starts tapering back down, I was like, okay, maybe we'll find him down here.
Yeah.
And then as soon as he started, like, he dropped off the side and started going actually down, we lost blood. And I went back and searched 2 different days, like from daylight till about noon twice, and never found.
Was that one of the bucks that you were after?
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's
never
rough.
found him, never saw him again. I don't think he died because of where I hit him. I think because if it would have hit him in the femoral artery, he would have died quick.
And whitetail are so strong. I see photos and videos of whitetail every single hunting season of just something crazy that they have taken damage on, and they're still like just up and around and fine. Like it's crazy how strong the animals are.
Tough, and I'm sure he's fine. I don't know. Like I said, I never saw him again. I never.
So you had one deer came in, and you weren't ready.
Mm-hmm.
So through that you learned just like
always be ready.
Always be ready.
You know, like I mean,
quick.
Even when you're taking your snack break or whatever, stay alert because that's mainly.
It's so much time you spend in the woods. It's so easy though. Like it's so easy. Like I get tired or something, close my eyes, especially on a whole day hunt.
It's hard to sit there all day too, especially in the saddle. Like they're comfortable and I love it.
Yeah.
But it's not the best. You know what I mean? Like sitting there all day, you get to hurting a little. You're like, oh, I just want to. But I sat there all day and I made it and was fine. But whenever I took the break of like, okay, I'm gonna stop paying attention for a second and fueled my body up and.
So then with the second one, it was like over like a patience.
Yeah, be more patient. Don't rush shots because it makes me sick.
Yeah.
Wounding an animal especially when you don't find it. Like if I would have found him and been able to get another shot in him or something, would have been a decent. I hate taking shots that wound an animal.
Yeah.
I want it to be quick and I mean as painless as possible and give all the respect to that animal. I'm not the guy to just go out there and start
I mean, that's a really good point. And I think that's also, just talking about that, like why so much preparation should go into it. Yes. And I want to bring up this fact real quick talking about that. Mm-hmm. So there's a huge controversy with crossbows.
Yes.
Huge.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's like so much division, you see? Like hatred. I've said it. Like, way more times than I probably should have over it. But I started reeling back a little bit and really taking into an account of not success rate, not my own personal feelings about it, not what I do, not what others do, but the deer. When you look at the deer and you are trying to harvest the deer, you are trying to give it a quick death, a precise death, and guys may not have the time to spend like perfecting archery in their equipment. They may not have the time.
Right.
So really when you put that into an account, like if someone only like is able to go out a few times and just does not have the time to put into an archery compound recurve bow, is it like more respectful then to pick up the crossbow or go that route?
I think it is. I don't like the term they don't have the time because you can always make time.
That's true.
If you want to, but they may not want to. That's what you need to word it is if they don't, they're not that into hunting. Like, it's It's what we love to do.
Yeah.
Not everybody's that way. Some people hunt simply to provide meat.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily, like, it's not their passion.
Mm-hmm.
They just like to do it, and it's a way for them to provide meat. And I think if it's not their hobby or something that they just absolutely like live for and don't want to put in extra time, then I mean, you can still provide for your family with meat, or give them meat by, using a crossbow. And I don't have a problem with that at all.
Yeah. So for example, like I'm going to bring like my dad into this.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad has never killed a deer with a compound bow.
Yeah.
And I know that he has probably put in more time than probably anyone that you can think of to do so.
Yep.
But he never has.
Yep.
Not saying like he is, I'm just saying like for the amount of time he has over all these years and still has not, I'm saying like being that many times and still being at 0, that's what I'm talking about. Like it's hard to meet. So it's now he loves deer hunting. He loves being out and enjoying, what we talked about and getting meat. Bring it home, eat it. They eat a lot of it.
Yeah.
So he ended up getting a crossbow, and dude, he's killing like a deer every year with it, and it's really awesome, like to see that. So now he's getting out there and harvesting animals, in the archery, time frame, and not just having to wait till rifle season.
Correct.
So he's being able to be successful and use like more time. Yeah. So that's just something that's like really, driven home for me. It's just like the division factor between it. And it's like, listen, if it's legal, it's legal. I mean, like if you want to, you can talk about the laws and like try to change them, vote, whatever. But as far as like bashing people or going after the people, that's what's tough, and you see a lot of it.
Yep, you do. And I think that Missouri specifically, the only downside to allowing crossbows is I think it does hurt our age structure, because you have all these people going out shooting young deer, which is fine. I have no problem with that, other than the fact that like it makes it so much easier to harvest whatever you want.
So I thought of this. So you're right. As far as like the crossbow aspect and having that long a period, my thoughts to counteract that would be having a specific time frame for a crossbow. So giving it its own season, and I think that would be super beneficial for both sides parties, and then two with what you're talking about, because you do see a success rate way higher with a crossbow. Yeah. Which is great. For the animal, for one. Yeah. So now you're having more animals that are getting harvested, dying quickly. Ethically. Yes. With a crossbow. But it being so successful, I think that's where it's been like driven tension. So if they could have a set period, like dates, to where you could use a crossbow, I think that would be awesome.
I think so too. Don't make it longer period of time than like a 1 week season, but not the whole archery season.
So my thought, this is just me, but my thought would be like, what if they did like, okay, so for example, Missouri, they open September 15th. Well, what if they put in like crossbow legal after November 1st? Yeah. So first month and a half, recurve, compound, and once again, I know this is catering to compound hunters, but it's the success of it. So with what you're talking about, like, more people are being successful, harvesting more, it's great, but is it hurting our numbers? Are we wanting to keep our population to where we're all having success? It doesn't get to the rifle season, and guys who only rifle hunt are like, man, I'm not seeing the numbers I used to. Like it's getting worse, and there is just rifle hunters. There's just rifle hunters. There's just recurve hunters. There's just compound hunters. There's just crossbow hunters. Correct. So and that's just my thought over what if they could do something different?
Yeah.
So if they do, they do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so going back to success versus failures, getting off that rabbit trail, but I wanted to bring that up because so talking about like success and everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a story we learned, what kind of key factors, happen there, how to correct them at times. So through that, do you feel like you've grown more or got more successful from the past mistakes?
I think so. I think every mistake I make is just another learning point. I think that whether it's I sat with the wrong wind or took a bad shot, it's something that personally I will never do again. That exact situation. But what's hard about hunting is there's almost never two situations that are the same.
That's so true.
So if you if I have a deer coming in from behind me right at dark, I know I'm not going to take that terrible shot again.
Yeah.
Right. But then make it earlier and he's running or something, then that's a totally different. You don't know how you're going to react to a new situation. I mean, it will always be in the back of my mind. Hey, don't take I try not to take bad shots. That's everybody tries not to, but you get in the heat of the moment and you're like, oh, I've got to get this deer on the ground.
Yeah.
Well, then you make mistakes, but then you always learn from them. And that was one of the worst feelings I've ever had. Wounding a deer, just it doesn't leave me. I was almost. Well, I mean, I didn't end up killing a buck this year. I killed some does during rifle season, but it almost made me want to completely hang it up for the year. I wounded that deer, I'm done.
Yeah.
I didn't really have the same drive after that I had before.
You know how many times I've went through something and it's dude, it's the worst, ugliest high school breakup.
Yeah.
Whenever you put in so much time into something and then it happens.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how many times it's been me, God, and a tree, and I'm crying.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah.
So, so do you think as far as people giving up? So, do you think that hunting, and people, in general, with what it takes, do you think they have, given up on it completely just because of, the heartbreak and,
I think so.
Of something?
Yeah, I think people would, because, especially if you didn't start out with just an intense drive to do it.
Yeah.
And then you go out there and you're like, I want to give this a shot. And then you have that horrible failure where you're like, where do I go from here?
It may build up too. Because you start as a kid, you're learning to hunt, you hunt. Yeah. And then it's I want to go after a mature buck. I want to go after one of the big ones that I'm super excited to post online. And then you're getting closer. And then just fall right on your face.
And a lot of people, I feel would give up after that, because they don't have. I don't know how to word it. They just it hurts, and they're like, well, I don't ever want to feel that again, so I'm just gonna stop. Instead of the flip side of that being okay, that hurts. Let's work harder.
Yeah.
It's just all in how you personally handle things like that. And I also think that hunting, for children, is a great way to teach them success and failure.
That's good.
I think that
it's in T-ball where they talk about how everyone gets a ribbon.
Yes.
And it's you don't teach failure.
How to deal with it? Because
how to deal with it. They're I don't want to see my kid cry, so they need a trophy too.
That is such an important lesson to learn.
So it's starting out. So for our society generations coming up, it's everyone wants to be appreciated or accepted.
Yeah.
For who they are, what they do, and then it's like they can't believe when they don't get something.
Mhm.
And I'm just saying, like, like how many times, me personally, I've been like, dude, I'm done.
Yeah.
I just put in the most absolute time and heart and drive and prayers, and it's like fell on my face again.
And that could easily, you could hang it up right there and no one would blame you. You know, they'd be like, oh, well, yeah, you failed miserably. Like, I don't blame you. Why would you try again? But then you have to keep going. Well, you have to have that driving factor and love it. And just know that if I continue working hard, it's going to happen eventually. And it may not be, I'm not saying, not everybody's going to be able to harvest 180, 200 inch deer. You know, but you're going to have some successes. And you also have to take the small victories too. You know, like even shooting a doe. Hey, I was able to harvest one. There's a victory. You know what I mean? Be proud of it. Be happy about it. And then that makes it hurt a little less when you fail on the big ones, because you still have your small victories that you can lay back on. Or even like another point of that would be like, oh, I saw him today. No, I didn't harvest him, but I saw him. There's a victory. You can put that into like acknowledgement of like, I'm getting close. Like I've seen him. I get, because even seeing a deer or seeing a big deer is like super exciting. And for bow hunting, like we talked about, like you're not always within range. No. I can't. There's countless times I've seen the big mature deer that just walk out of my sight because there's nothing I can do. I'm not going to take a 80-yard shot through the woods with a bow. You know, and so you just watch them. And it feels like a failure because you're like, oh, they didn't come this way. But then you're like, well, I was still in almost the right spot. You know, and that's a win in itself.
So taking the small victories, I like that. And I guess putting like pieces together that could try to help you be more successful in the future. That's something that I started doing a few years ago. Was I tried to like take a season and I'm gonna be like, I want to perfect this craft to the best ability I can for myself. So, you know, one season I was like, I want to learn how to be like the most like scentless or scent free that I can be. Like start putting that into my practice for hunting. So started putting my hunting gear in totes, using like the ozone, you know, electric ozone, and getting dressed at the tree stand, wearing my you know, long johns in my truck to my hunting spot. I mean, I tried doing all that. And now I learned a lot of stuff through that. Well, one, you can't always be completely scent free. Like you can't be. Using the wind is your number one key factor. But now today, like I still use that practice, maybe not so hardcore like I did that first year, but now it's getting a little more easier and getting my system down. And then the next year I tried to learn on, okay, what kind of setup can I like make for myself to where I can go as far as I want. And not give up because I'm so tired. So I worked on 1 year, what mobile setup for me can I get? Like what kind of setup can I get? How can I perfect it? And so that was a year I focused on that. The next year was, it was like just getting out and starting to try to spend more time patterning or learning areas. And that can start at different times of the year too. Like you can do that early season, you know, whenever everything's off. So those are just some of the practices that I try to do to try to set myself up for better success in doing that. So I just like the aspect of every year trying to better myself.
I agree. I think that's the best way to move forward. Because you're always learning, and it gives you something to work toward.
Yeah.
If hunting was one of those things where you could learn everything about it and never learn again, it wouldn't be as
It
fun.
wouldn't be fun.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Half the fun is learning, being like, oh, okay, so this is what this deer does different than the other deer, or this is what I need to do different to get to this deer.
Yeah.
It's learning is the fun.
Here's the other thing is here's one big key factor that I've always learned. You will, if you put in the time, you can put yourself in a situation to harvest a large deer.
Yes.
Again.
Yep.
You can.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe that is blocking off a week of work to go and travel to this property in a different state because maybe your state doesn't.
Yep.
But if your passion is, to try to harvest a what we call world-class deer, whether that's 130 inch to someone or 150 inch or 170 inch. I've heard it all. What is a world-class deer to them?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying though is like, I lost my train of thought where I was going with that.
It's all right.
Yeah. So putting yourself in those situations. That's where I was going with it was, you can put yourself again in those situations. So it's not over. It's like it's not the end of the world for the rest of your life.
Yep.
I get like I hear this term every year from people, and I like it because it talks about how passionate they are, but. Once in a lifetime opportunity. Love it. I love that, yeah. I love the term because people are so passionate about it. It's like, man, that was a once in a lifetime deal. That's a once in a lifetime opportunity. And it's like, dude, like you're passionate about it. Like that's awesome. But realistically, you can put yourself in those situations. Not just once.
Correct.
I get it. There is deer out there that like, may be a 200 inch deer, and those ones are pretty rare. But if you're just talking about like, a large whitetail, or mule deer or elk or whatever, like you can put yourself in those situations more often. If you start putting in like practices and don't give up. Like don't give up. So, man, I could sit here and we could go on for probably 3 hours of failure stories for me, myself. Like I have 100% had far more failure stories over whitetail that I have patterned and learned than I have success stories. And the sad thing is the success stories like kind of come out of nowhere,
they do.
So I just, bow hunting is it's just very difficult. Like it's just extremely, extremely difficult. Compound hunting, or any archery, is very difficult. And so, just one story that I probably will never forget about because it was my first, really large whitetail. This was probably, if I had to guess, 145 inch 10 point in Oklahoma. It may have been they don't get like a crazy amount of mass, but this was a large whitetail, like really nice whitetail, and I had them on my cameras and trying to pattern them and really I didn't know what a pattern was at that time, so I was. I guess 16 I was 16. And I skipped school because I wanted to go hunting one morning. My parents were pretty lenient, which was nice about like, let me skip an hour or something during hunting season and to go. So I was going to go to school in late. And so I got up in my stand, got there super early, sitting there and it was like, I don't know, 8:30 or 9. And I'm watching kind of like this area that I normally like see them come through. Got my bow there and I look back to my right and here he comes down the trail. And I'm telling you, dude, like he looked awesome, like really awesome. Yeah. So I grab my bow. I'm turning all the way around. I'm in a ladder stand. Yeah. Turn all the way, and he's like 20 or 25 yards. He's really close. Mm-hmm. So I'm turning around. I draw back, break my shot, and I see that arrow like go and hit the shoulder, and just like he takes about 5 steps. And I see my arrow just fall out of him.
Mm-hmm. Been there.
And I'm like, no. Like, I knew it happened. Like, I hadn't had that happen before, but I knew, like, when I saw that arrow hit him and it just fall down, I was like, no. So he actually circled back around and then stopped. I think he only stopped at like 40 yards, which today is like, for me, it's not as far. Mm-hmm. But whenever I was 16, that's a far shot for me. Like, and so I knocked another arrow, and because he stopped like right in the same shooting lane. Yeah. And so I tried to shoot again. It went under him. Yeah. And so then he takes off, and I'm like, no, like, please, when I get down there to my arrow, like, it'd be okay. And so I go down there, I look at my arrow, and there's like, it's like this much like penetration and just like kind of hair, so it's like 1.5 inches. You know, it went in, and I was like so sick. I mean, like, that was like the deer I was after and the opportunity, and a big thing I was worried about, like, was he hurt like bad? I was like, I hope this deer doesn't go and die. Like, that would be...
It makes you sick.
I was like, that would be the saddest thing ever, because this is a awesome deer. So, I had a buddy in high school, and he had a dog that would track a deer. Mm-hmm. And I saw spots of blood. Yeah. And so after school, we brought his dog, and man, that dog was impressive. Yeah. Like, seriously. Like, this wasn't a dog that he necessarily trained up for, like, you know, recovering deer. Mm-hmm. It was just a dog he spent so much time with. It just knew him and what he wanted it to do. Yeah. Like, he used it for squirrel hunting. He used it for rabbit hunting. Like, it was just a cool dog. So, watching this dog, I mean, it was just on it. Like, trail going through. And then it gets on the far side of this property, and we are on hands and knees, like, just like going through this thick, nasty stuff. And it's obvious, like, that's where he lived, like, and wanted to be. Yep. And so we ended up getting in there, and there was a deer bed there, and the dog took off running, chasing really hard, and so he kicked him up. Mm-hmm. So he was fine. So the deer was fine. And it was a couple of days later, they got photos across the road on the neighbors of it still being alive. Yeah. And then a few weeks later, he was back on my camera, but never got another opportunity. So that was kind of the end of that. So, so that was just, you know, you don't forget. Like,
no, you don't. You never forget that. Ever.
You don't forget it. So it was super difficult for me to, like, take that in, and it really, dude, I honestly think, like, that hurt me so bad. Like, I, like, have lost a big passion for whitetail hunting. Yeah. Like, seriously. Yeah. Because I already started to duck hunt some, but I really did. I started to, like, duck hunt more whenever I was 17, 18 years old, and I still went whitetail hunting. Like, I still went deer hunting and did all that. But it just hurt. Like, that was my first, like, big, like sad.
Yeah.
So.
But it teaches you how to deal with failure too. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, you got back to it eventually. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So, and a big testament too with that was, like, you know, moving to Missouri and areas, like, it was a little more difficult to duck hunt, because I love to duck hunt. Like, I really loved it. I loved the camaraderie, like, people, and all that. So, like, I enjoyed it, but whenever I got to Missouri, like, and just and just getting back out to like learning deer. And I worked for a hunting outfit.
Yep.
And that really taught me a lot because I was guiding deer hunts, and I had to know how to put people on them.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that year and a half,
yeah,
like I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Like because I felt it was the only thing to do for people who are coming to try to harvest.
Yeah, they're paying money.
A deer. They're paying money.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to do my job. And so I really started, and what's really sad is like I was 20 years old?
Mm-hmm.
And no, I was probably 21 or 22. And dude, I really, to that point, never paid hardly much attention to wind.
Yep.
Which is like, which is a big key factor.
Yeah, it is a big key factor, but I don't think there's a lot of people out there that wouldn't say the same thing. Like there was just a point in their life where they're like, wow, I gotta pay attention to the wind. But before that, they like never paid attention to it. And no one did. I mean, I feel like, and I also feel like kind of now in this day and age, people are like, with social media and all of that, like people can talk about it more. We have podcasts, we have things we listen to that teach us more. But like, I'm pretty sure my dad, very successful hunter in the fact that he can, on command, almost go out and say, I'm going to kill a deer. It's never a big deer. He's not interested in that. He just wants to go harvest a deer.
Yeah.
And he can do it basically just, I'm going to go kill a deer, and then he'll go kill a deer. Yeah. But he doesn't pay attention to the wind.
Yeah.
But you have to. To hunt big, mature deer.
Mature whitetail.
If you're just out for a little deer or a doe or whatever, they still can wind you, but
I didn't like think about that.
No,
like growing up, like I was hunting, even after that, I was still chasing after large, mature whitetail year after year after year. And the sad thing is, like, I almost always had like, if I was after one deer, and I can think back to almost every deer that I had photos of or seen on a property, and I got like one opportunity at them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I put myself in that situation, probably because of like persistence. Like I would go out there and hunt like a lot, and so just eventually that enough time spent, I'd have one opportunity, but I just always messed up. Like I just always like cam, shoot my bow, and there was a tree limb going above. My cam smacked the top of the tree limb, and arrow went down. That same set, like that same stand, a couple weeks later, this other buck, one of the bigger ones, he came down this like shooting lane, and my arrow hit a branch and shot into a tree. And so I just feel like, it's just so frustrating.
It is frustrating.
And so then whenever having to like learn how to get guys on deer, that taught me so much for myself.
Yes.
So taking a step back of like, what like are guys doing to help their chances, so like to be better.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, do you have any like few tips or things that you do, I would say, to help like your chances? Like we talked about wind. Is there anything else that pops in your mind?
I play the wind 100%. Wind, I try to learn as best I can and never walk where like they can see me.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like I just do normal things. Like I don't think I do anything special other than I just pay attention to the wind. And it's hard where I hunt to pay attention to the wind because it swirls a lot, because we're down, got all these hills and valleys. I definitely stay out of the bottoms.
Tough.
Definitely stay out of the bottoms as much as I can unless there's like no wind. Then the thermals are a big deal because they get pulled toward the river.
That's a big thing that people talk about right now is thermals, which I'm assuming mainly just talk about the wind. Is that
thermals and the wind are different? So your thermals are your actual, like the scent that's coming off of your body.
Mm-hmm.
In the mornings, it's going to rise. I don't know if I want to say this out loud because I could be wrong. I'll say it anyway. In the evenings they fall. So
or vice versa.
So like if you're sitting on top of a hill, and they typically pull toward water. So like if you're near a body of water.
I've heard that. I've heard that from some guys.
If you're hunting in the morning, they rise because heat rises.
Okay.
That is correct, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, you also
sense.
have to pay attention to like. So I know I've heard a lot of people be like, well, I'll hunt up here in the morning because the wind is blowing. Like the wind will be blowing wrong, but they'll be like, in the morning my thermals are going up the hill. Well, they are when the sun comes up and it starts to warm up. But when you're there in the dark, guess where they're going?
Going
downhill.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So I've heard that, and probably it just has gone over my head, like my thermals.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
So yeah, I just never had someone, I guess, explain it to me really well. So that's really good. You mentioned like trying to stay hidden.
Yes. Obviously.
Yeah. So what's interesting is like I try to go above and beyond, like how to avoid if I think maybe he's in this area. Like how can I access that? So a couple years ago I was hunting a really large whitetail, and there was like this creek that I could use to like come in on the back, like far back side, and I wanted to consistently hunt.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to screw it up because I knew if I like hunted too much, it can do more damage than good. Like if you don't hunt like I guess better days on your ace spot, like your number one spot, it's doing more, damage.
Yeah.
Like if you're just hunting, and that's the way I grew up, dude. I just hunted every day, same spot,
Me too.
over and over, just because I loved it. But whenever I'm after like a old whitetail that knows, guess what? I'm educating him.
Yep.
Like I'm teaching him, okay, this is where he walks. He's walking here almost every day. I'm gonna avoid that.
Yeah.
I smell him.
Yeah.
I'm gonna avoid that. So a key access was this like creek, and I got a kayak and I loaded my compound in, and I would go down it, and I could get on like the back side of this field. And so I parked my kayak, I waded through the water, and I just sat like 5 yards off the water. And now I was in a spot that I'd seen him come out in this field, and he was going to be close enough to shoot. So I wasn't out of the game being where I was, but my access was so unique. I could hunt there every day.
Yeah, because you're not leaving a scent trail getting in there.
Nope.
You're in and out clean.
The wind is hitting me in the face, and it's actually going over the water.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
And I did have my opportunity.
Yeah.
And it sucked because this buck I'd watched all summer, and once again learning him, trying to use that access, and he came out, and it was right at dark. Like right before dark, and I actually thought I wasn't gonna have enough time, and I'm watching like legal shooting time and all that stuff, and I'm like, okay, I've got like 10 minutes left. He's way over there. It's not gonna happen. So I'm just like, this stinks. But he ended up going like a straight line, like straight for me. So he ended up coming and working in. I'm like, oh man, he's gonna like coming out of my opportunity.
Yeah.
So I'm like low. This is like a soybean field, and so I'm clicking my rangefinder, and it's hitting. It's like 47, 46, 46, and I'm like, okay. So I get up, and so I was sitting on the ground, and so I draw back. I get up, break a really good shot. I mean, it was really good. Like. Had it perfect on his heart. If he ducked down, I would still get, lungs.
Yeah.
And broke my shot, and I hear it, and like hear it smack, and I see my arrow go up. Yeah, and I was like, what the, like, why did my arrow go up?
Right.
And then it landed. I had like the nocturnal or whatever lighted knocks on it. And I was like, that's weird. I saw him. I was like, I broke a great shot. And I go and I get my arrow, and there's no blood. There's just like some meat, and I knew right then that I hit through his loins.
Mm-hmm.
Like I hit him high.
Yeah.
And I was sick. Like I was like what happened? Like, and so I go back to where like right where this trail, it's a tractor trail, and I was like, okay, I know he was right here, and I click on my seat, and it's reading like, what was it, like 35 yards, 36 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
So it was in the 30s. And so I was just so like confused. It made sense though, because I could see his body really well, and you know, I could put my pins really good on him and break a good shot. And that's what I did. Because it, you know, out at 50 yards, you know, you may have like a little more movement. You got to really, but it was like pretty easy to just put the pins on them and break my shot.
Yeah.
And I was like, like it just made me sick. So the next morning, I woke up and I've got a 3D target, size of whitetail, and I go out there and I put my 46-yard pin on this deer's heart at 30. I think it was like, I don't remember what it was. It was 37, 36 yards closer, and I broke a perfect shot. You know, using that pin at that yards, and it hit my 3D target perfectly in the back.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's what happened.
That's what happened. Yeah.
And so it ended up living and fine. Like I made, you know, an attempt to look for it, watched birds and all that. So, and people saw them later, but it really did stink.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, it's just so, I mean, it's just, it's
failures are hard.
Failures are going to happen.
They are. You're going to fail. You're going to mess up. You're going to make a bad shot. It's just all in how you recover from it.
Yeah.
To get to your successes. We haven't talked about a single success story yet, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Because the failures are the important part that lead to the success.
Yeah, and the failures are going to happen. There's going to be more. So, yeah, I mean, I think we could, you know, we'll talk about success stories in a different podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
But I would like to, as far as failures, what we've learned, a couple like key factors that we talked about was like, so wind, access. If you can access somewhere
from a creek or something like that.
Yeah, something that keeps you. So talking about that deer that I shot and hitting the shoulder blade that bounced out in high school.
Yeah.
You know what was funny was, this is me not knowing, like not thinking about it, but my access to my stand was like this like deer trail, or it was like a perfect you know trail for them to use, and I would think deer would use it.
Yeah.
But I never saw a deer on it. It's you know where I come into my stand.
Yeah.
Never saw a deer. Like in all the years that I hunted there, I would see tracks.
Yeah.
Never saw a deer use it. You know why?
Because you were using it.
Because I was using it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know now
you don't even think about that.
Now thinking back of what I know now versus whenever I was a kid, it's like, man, I probably could have done a little bit better. Now,
you could have.
I could have still choked with a shot, or something happened that you just can't control.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like, wow, that makes sense.
It does. It all makes sense when you look back.
So, yeah, I mean,
and you know what's crazy though? Just one more quick thing here we can talk about real quick. How it seems like the people who walk out there and don't pay attention to anything have the most success.
So the guys who are lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they're lucky, but also what you have to think about, it's not really luck. It's the fact that they just don't think about anything. They are super aggressive is what it is.
Okay.
Like they're not doing it on purpose. They're not being aggressive on purpose. They're just walking out in the woods.
Makes sense.
And so they're, so if you or me are hunting a big deer, we're not gonna immediately go straight into his bedroom. We're not gonna, sit here because he's close. They're but people who don't think about it, they're just gonna, not to be this guy, but your guy with a crossbow just walking out in the woods, he's gonna go sit up right in their bed.
Yeah.
And then boom, he kills a big deer, and you're like, why?
Yeah.
Well, because he was there where the deer was. He was aggressive, unknowingly.
Yeah.
But he was being super aggressive.
Yeah. So one thing that I thought about was like those guys that just seem like they got. I call it luck.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's by God's grace.
It is,
you know,
for sure.
For 100%.
Yeah.
It's just the harvesting of an animal.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those guys that it's like, you know, we'll put in the absolute most like knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
you know, what we buy for equipment,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like we fall on our face.
Yep.
And I feel like, yeah, you have to have like that heart of like being okay with failure, but don't let it stop you from from still learning.
Yeah. And I also, another like point in that, I think sometimes we overthink it.
Yeah.
Like I think we give whitetails, like sometimes they deserve the most credit because they're incredibly smart.
Yeah.
But also they're also just a goat that lives in the woods.
Yeah.
Like I think sometimes we think into it too much, and that's why we fail a lot because we're being too conservative.
That's good.
You know, we're not.
That's what I thought.
I think if you just dive in and do it,
Yeah.
You may only get one time because you blew him out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but if you capitalize on that one time, that's all you needed.
That's really good.
So
yeah, I mean,
that's my opinion on it. Some people may think differently. I don't know, but I just feel like they're just a goat.
Yeah.
You know, they really are. They're just a goat that lives in the woods.
Yeah.
And we sit here and we rack our brains like, why is this buck doing this? Why is
Always
he doing
thinking about
And
it.
it's like, they're not thinking about us.
Yeah.
They're just living their life.
Yeah.
And they're like, you
and
know.
their senses are just
their senses are great.
made that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
imagine if they weren't. You know?
It would be fun. You just go out there and.
Yeah, shoot one.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be fun.
No.
So I think, I mean, God has made those creatures so that way they can survive.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, they've made them to where they can survive. I mean, the amount of deer that we've seen, you know, giant whitetail, old whitetail, and it's like, where did that deer come from?
Mm-hmm.
Like, or you see one and he disappears for 2 years. It's like, where did that deer go?
Wherever he wanted. You know, he just. One day he was like, I'm going to live over here for a while.
Yeah.
Because they can do that. And then they just. And then you're sitting here racking your brain and they're just wandering around.
Living their life.
Yeah. I mean, it's just normal to them. So my point with that is like, sometimes it's okay to be aggressive. Don't be scared to dive in. I mean, you know, play it. Be smart. You know, if he's not in there, don't go in there. But if you know where he's at, bomb in there and kill him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, just do it.
Yeah.
Like, don't be scared. Don't worry about blowing him out. Because if you do, okay, all right, let's make a new plan, or let's go find a different deer, or whatever. But don't be so afraid of blowing the deer out or scaring him off or whatever.
Yeah.
That you don't take your opportunities.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's really good.
it's just the way I think of it.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of it. I am
I feel
very
like I
I'm
have,
very
especially especially whenever I'm like learning a deer, really, really well.
Yeah.
Then I'm like super like hesitant.
Yeah.
Like I know he's coming in here. Oh, I know he's living there.
Uh-huh.
It's like don't want to go there.
Yeah, but you know what? If you, I will almost guarantee you that if you pick one deer out this fall
Mm-hmm.
and you just find out where he beds,
Mm-hmm.
learn nothing else about him,
Mm-hmm.
dive in there, I bet you kill that deer
Yeah, that's a good point.
the first time. I bet you do, because, you could very easily scare him out of there, whatever.
Yes,
But you know,
so there's a tactic that some guys use that
Bump and dump.
a bump and dump.
yeah,
and
it
they'll
works.
use that tactic.
and it works.
It's like all the wrong codes
Mhm.
that you get taught or
Yeah.
learned about.
Yeah. But it works.
Yeah.
Because a deer, especially like where you're at, like with all the ag and stuff,
there's a lot of ag.
they are going to live in a it's a big area, but it's relatively small.
Mhm.
You know, a big timber deer, yeah, they may jump up and run 2 miles and then bed back down and not come back. But in your area, most of the time, they're going to come back to their bed at some point.
Yeah. There's only so many places that they can
Exactly.
really go.
It will be
so
great.
what you're talking about with big woods,
Yeah, they can bed anywhere.
they can go and relocate.
Yeah. So it doesn't work as well, but it still works.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to completely blow them out of their home area.
Yeah.
Unless you continually do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good.
But I really do think that that's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, and I'm glad I finally got to say that out loud. I think I'm just going to start trying to dive in and see what happens, you know, just Okay, this looks like bedding. Let's go sit in here.
Yeah.
Let's get in before daylight, real quiet.
Yeah.
You know,
So
make sure
still try to use some factors that
like,
make sense.
Don't just the wind is blowing from where I'm gonna sit into the bedding area. No,
like
dumb.
walk in with the wind in your back.
But walk in with the wind at your face, get in the bedding area, and just be as quiet as possible. Make sure your wind's right, and just sit up.
Yeah.
And I have pretty high confidence that I'm gonna. Yeah,
you're gonna see him or kill him.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I don't know. I'd like to wrap up as far as some key factors.
Yeah.
So one, I think know your equipment, know yourself, and have respect for the animal.
Yes.
So whatever equipment you have, use it, practice it, and be proficient with it.
Yes.
Learn some stuff about it to
you need every advantage you can get.
Yeah.
Because they're already better than you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So just learning your equipment, how to use that. I think a big key factor is wherever the deer is, wherever you want to kill the deer, don't walk there.
Correct.
So if you're wanting to kill this deer in this area, don't walk in that area
before
because he will smell you. He will ground sense you. It's like a brick wall whenever it comes to deer. Their senses are just so incredible.
They are.
Using wind when you're able to, be aggressive if timing allows, and you've learned the deer. Like, don't hold back. Like, that's a really good testament because I'm so scared. Like, I'm so scared to mess up that I'm holding back.
Yeah, and it costs you probably the chance to kill that deer because you hold back too much. Yeah, especially, and that is more prevalent. Like, if you have a certain deer, you're going to be hunting this area the whole season. That's one thing. You can be a little less aggressive, but if you're like you travel to where
all over states
to hunt, you're only there for a few days.
Yeah. My mindset does change. I've got to be a little aggressive because I may only have a couple of days.
Exactly.
So I guess what you're telling me is like use that, on some other places.
Yeah, dive in there.
Like,
don't be afraid to.
Yeah, that's really good.
Because there's always another deer.
Yeah.
That's
what we talked about.
Yeah.
There's always another deer. There is going to be another chance. So you mess up, you fall on your face. Like, don't give up. Don't hang it up because I know it's hard. You just want to be done with it. But remember why you started. Remember why you started.
Yeah. Stay in love with it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Don't forget that. So that was really good. I like this. That was just some, what we've learned from failures. I'm sure we're going to talk about some more success
eventually,
in the future.
Yeah.
But that is the thing, dude. We could sit here and talk so much failures, but we did learn something from it.
Yeah. And it has led to some success.
It has led to success. And you're going to have those times. You're going to get your opportunity at a lifetime deer. You will. If you put in enough time.
Put in enough time and effort and have it available to you. Yeah, you'll get it.
So this will be the end of this podcast. But I hope some people get inspired through this to continue with it. Because, like I said, I have.
Yeah.
It's hurt.
Oh yeah, it hurts, but you just keep going.
Yep.
Well, thank you all for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe on whatever platform you're on.
Yeah.
We'll catch you on the next one.